I want to show you today how I make these little AT placards. I've got like five or six of these things. I give them away as gifts. They're all over my house. My wife loves them. So the primary tool that we're going to use to make this little placard is a router. So I've got this cheap router. It's a corded router from Harbor Freight. In the US, they have Harbor Freight. It's like a discount tool store, and they actually make some pretty decent tools. The other tool that we're going to be using is a jigsaw. You're going to need a set of these router template guide, and I'll leave a link for these, and I'll leave a link for all this stuff of where you can get it. But you can get these at Harbor Freight as well. I think they're like 10 or 15 bucks. If your router doesn't come with a bit, you'll need a cheap bit set. This one is also very inexpensive, also from Harbor Freight. The bit that I'm going to use today is the 1/4 inch straight bit. Okay, so to make something like this and to be able to maintain the perfect lines of the AT, the beautiful AT logo, we're going to need to create a template. And to create the template, I've got a couple of 7" by 7" thin sheets of, I think this is Luan plywood, but you can also use like a thin sheet of MDF or hardboard. But you want to find something that's like between 5 and 7 millimeters. The thickness of it is pretty important, so you can make sure that the router template guide will work with the template that we'll create. The way that you would create a shape to then templatize and cut out many times out of other pieces of wood would be, you would take your template, draw your shape, and then you would use a jigsaw to cut the shape out. And then once you've got that shape removed, you can then use your router with the router template guide. Put this on top of your working piece, secure it down, and then you can route on top of it. The router template guide will ensure that you stay within this kind of template that you've made, this track that you've made, and it'll kind of ride around, and it won't allow the blade to eat into the side of the template guide. So therefore, whatever you have underneath the template is what would be then engraved. And you can adjust the depth of how deep it would be engraved by adjusting your router settings, essentially dialing it to go deeper or more shallow. So as you can see, a normal shape would be pretty easy. You would just cut the shape out, and then there's your template. The AT logo, however, presents a bit of a challenge because it's not just a shape. There is a counter in the middle of the A above the T. So how do you handle that? So essentially, you will need to make 2 templates. One for the A part, and then one for the T part. And you would do both of these templates with your template router guide bushings. And then when you put them together, they would then make the AT logo with the proper counter here in the middle. So this is the guy that causes so much trouble, this little triangle right here. This makes us have to have 2 templates. Really not a big deal, and I'll show you exactly how to do it right now. Okay, so there's a couple of ways that you can make this template. The first way is you just get online, find the AT logo, and print it out at the size that you want to reproduce. You would then take this printout, put it on top of the wood. You can kind of like put it up to the light so you can see sort of where you're placing it. With a pencil, if you just trace really hard around the shape, you can kind of get a faint guide that you can go and cut out. But the way that I'm going to do it is I'm actually going to use a file that I've already prepared and that I've actually going to give you guys access to. I will link it below and give you the file. And this has two parts to it. It has the A part and then the T part. So how does this work? No matter what size template you're using, I have here a 7" by 7" template. You could have a different size, but the important thing is the upper left-hand corner where these black lines are, you would align that to the upper left-hand corner of your template. Same for the other part of the logo. Align this to the upper left-hand corner of your template. And you'll see that actually aligning these things is pretty important, so everything lines up when you do this process twice to make your engraving. Hopefully this will all make sense in a moment when I show you. Grab yourself a glue stick. I have kids, so I've these things are laying around everywhere. And apply the glue to your template. And then you're going to, again, take these top lines, align it to the upper left. You can kind of see through the paper to align it. And it doesn't have to be, absolutely perfect, just within a few millimeters. So I think I've got that pretty good. I'm going to press this down. Smooth it down on there. So here I've got both the sides completed. So the next step is we're going to cut these shapes out using a jigsaw. Get yourself a drill and then just pop a hole through the shape. This is going to be where you're going to insert your jigsaw. I'm going to go ahead and plug in my jigsaw, and then I'm going to go ahead and cut these shapes out. Because we're using two templates, we're going to need registration holes to make sure everything lines up. So on the file that I'm including, you can see that I've got 2 registration holes. You'll just need to pop a drill through that. Okay, so once you've cut everything out with the jigsaw, this is what you're left with. So now I like to just remove the paper and then just do some sanding just to make sure everything is pretty smooth. Awesome, so my 2 templates are completely ready to go, and let's make some cool placards. All right, so if I want to use this piece of wood to do this project in, so how do you get this template to stay on the surface that you want to engrave? Because obviously you don't want it to be shifting around while you've got the router on it. So to address that, really we just need some tape. So I'm just going to go ahead and lock it down. Also use painter's tape. Painter's tape actually might be a bit easier. Check the smoothness. You're not going to want anything poking up like the tape. You don't want that to be messing up the router where it has to slide across the surface. So just do a check, kind of wiggle it, make sure everything's good. Then you're going to make your registration marks. So go ahead and pop a little hole where your registration drill holes are. Put a pencil in there and just pencil it a little bit. Exciting! We're getting ready to do the engraving, finally. So for this part, it's really important to wear ear protection and eye protection. Make sure everything's locked down, and usually 4 pieces of tape does that no problem. Make sure that the depth of the router is locked down, because you're gonna want to be really consistent with that. So I'll go ahead and switch on the router. I'm gonna take a plunge right in the center, and then I'll work my way out and around, and you'll feel the guide bearing sort of dragging along the edge of the template. It can also be really good if you have like a shop vac or something like that. Everything looks pretty good, so I can go ahead and now carefully undo the template. And there is the first half of the AT logo. Now, I have my template registration marks here and here. So I'm going to match up the registration. That looks pretty good. And we'll go ahead and lock this down. I got my crazy hammer thing here that I got for Christmas. Press everything down good. And again, I'll just grab my router and start going to work. All right, guys, so the moment of truth. This is when you see the full engraving. And the exciting moment. Ta-da! There's a little bit of dust. But look, now you can take this, cut it here, cut it here, you know, do something with the edges. Maybe you fill this with like epoxy or something like that, or you paint the inside white and then the outside brown or green or something like that. You can also make another template for your trail name and put that beneath it. But the repeatability of this is why I love it so much. All right, guys, so there you have it. We produced a pretty cool sign that could be given as a gift or just hung up in your own house. I made a decorative frame here with the router as well, so get creative. You know, maybe fill it with epoxy. I've taken a like a blowtorch before, and I've kind of torched the inside of the letters. Actually, this one is that way. I torched the inside, then I kind of sanded everything. I did the edges, I painted it. I made this little holder out of a 2x4. So take the files, print them out, make your own templates, make some AT signs, give them out. Use them around your house. Have fun. Maybe use another shape. It doesn't have to be the AT. It could be anything. So I hope you enjoyed this. Hopefully it was helpful. And by the way, subscribe please, because I've got a bunch of content coming out. I've got so many different ideas of backpacking, hiking content, but also things like this, like DIY stuff. So check it out.